want to talk for the next half hour about HR and technology. And we're going to skip the formal introductions. Eduardo, Cynthia, and David's going to help out as well as we talk about technology in the human resources function. And over the last probably 10 years, this function has really redefined itself through technology, and it affects training, it affects compensation, benefits, certainly recruiting, compensation. And I think that's probably where we should start. Maybe Cynthia, I'll ask you, how has technology enhanced your role in human resources?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today and being part of this amazing panel. So thank you very much for having us. So I would say that obviously technology has entirely transformed our way of operating HR. From all across the board, our practices have changed, our perception also of the way we are communicating to operation, to our outlets, and the commitment also that we have to our talents. It has necessarily embraced and giving us more tools to be more productive and efficient in our way of practicing human resources all across the board.
Thank you. And Eduardo, maybe you could give us a little light with respect to your company and how is recruiting affected by technology?
Yes. Good morning, Eduardo Sanabia from Think4 Group. And it's a pleasure being here first. I just want to say my team is like, how do you get in this panel at TechTable? HR doesn't go out very often when it comes to these things. And it's just been great to acknowledge the fact that what we do, although it's almost like when people and technology collide and how important that is for us. Technology is allowing us to have those tools to attract and engage with our employees and allow us time to do more things with our employees. To your question, Carolina, on the recruitment, obviously what we want is to create a healthy pool of candidates that we can attract. And obviously, as David was saying before, more and more technology is driving that. People want to know who we are, what are we all about. They want to apply for jobs through those venues so that we can then source our applicants in a more better way.
Maybe how can you control for the quality and the quantity? I think we all know, anyone who's put out a job ad online or even the old-fashioned way, we're getting a lot of responses, sometimes thousands of responses for one job. How do you control for that quality?
I think that that's what technology is allowing us to do, because we can then put parameters onto our software. And yes, we will have a large applicant pool, but then we can restrict the requirements of a job so that the pool becomes a little bit smaller and more manageable. And at the end of the day, what we're going to have are individuals that really meet the requirements for our jobs, and then we're going to have a good pool to choose from.
Cynthia, at the MENA Group, you're all over the country, certainly. How are you using technology with respect to recruiting and trying to get the best talent?
So I would start by saying that obviously the MENA Group is currently 29 properties all over the country. We also open a property in Dubai, so we are now also going overseas and venturing new country and new way of doing things. Every single market is operating differently. And from my experience previously with Chef Daniel Boulou and the Dynex Group, we had different creative way of attracting the top talents to our organization. So when you operate a business in DC or in New York, it has nothing to do with Miami. It has nothing to do with San Francisco as well. So you are really targeting the personality, the talents, our way of marketing yourself. You know, Eduardo was speaking about engaging with talent and marketing the best way all of the positions that we have, but it needs to be targeted to the markets that we are covering.
What about the Generation 2? David, going down to the end, you spoke about the different types of applicants and employees in the workplace. How is technology affecting breaking up the workplace by generation? And we certainly talked about the millennials being a very tech-dependent generation. How does that affect the recruiting?
Look, on the recruiting front, the focus has always got to be on the culture. If you have a great culture, you're going to recruit the best talent. That's just with any business. We focus that within our own business. Many of you do the same thing. On the recruiting side, I really truly believe right now, the best talent are, one connection away from somebody on your team. They have outlets to social media. They have about 300 connections. So just imagine leveraging them to be able to connect with others of like that would be a good member. So I think that, as we see the many different technologies that are coming around, it still comes back to the people. Focusing on your culture, your team. Technology will obviously enable you and help you, but that needs to be the center of focus for any company.
And Eduardo, how is your company addressing the generational difference with recruiting? We no longer have to do a one-size-fits-all. Are you adapting that geographically or by generation?
I believe that more and more technology is taking over cross generations. Many times in hospitality, we believe that there will be a group of individuals during our labor market that may not be able to reach us through technology. But more and more is changing. Like anyone really has a smartphone. Anyone is able to connect with you. And we are leveraging and using or benefiting from the technology in order to advertise that story. I think I do agree with David about we believe that we have an awesome culture in my company. So why not take benefit from technology to put that story out there? Because more and more people wants to know about you. What is it? What are you about? What's your purpose? And why would I want to work with you? And then that, along with referrals, that's what brings people to our company.
How are you, maybe Cynthia, how are you using social networking as part of the recruiting? Is it putting the best face forward on the company, or how are you using that to drive recruiting efforts?
So I think recruiting efforts and social media are definitely embedded in the same message that we want to pass along to our talents. And there are several partnerships that we've had. And I want to mention that one of the best partnerships that we had with recruiting was actually with Culinary Agent, because they were capable of engaging with a pool of talents that we wanted to attract, but also pulling all those passive candidates that at the end of the day are connected with our network, those 300 employees that are connected with that particular network that you want to attract to your operation. With such type of technology and platform, we were able to become quite more efficient with our way of practicing recruiting.
David, maybe you could comment a little bit about how has the industry been receptive to what your company's doing and in general new efforts to bring technology into the HR function. I know you work, and as you said, you identify yourself as a restaurateur, but how have you found your compatriots with respect to accepting changes in tech and what it can offer?
So we've been doing this for 16 years, and people say that's a long time. It is, it's gone by fast. You have your innovators out there. The innovators are 2.5% of the population. And then you have your early majority, the next 18%. We're still seeing the early majority adopting technology. And the reason why is restaurateurs are so busy that anything that prevents them from having great experiences within the restaurant is almost a non-negotiable. So the one thing that we've seen is technology has to be right. It has to do the things that obviously make your job more efficient, taking time away from the administrivia and keeping you out of the office and onto the floor. So I really think that the industry is evolving, but the technology companies are maturing. And I would say that we're somewhat laggards when it comes to the adoption of technology, but trust me, running a busy restaurant, that's the last thing you think about when you're really trying to create memorable guest experiences. So I think that's the reason why.
It may be, Eduardo, where is your company with respect to the HR function and other areas of HR? Are you using it obviously in benefits and comp?
Yes, yes, absolutely. We do have the recruiting process go through technology. We are using a platform where not only you are able to apply for jobs, but you also can do a virtual new hire paperwork that is embedded into our payroll system. So when we rolled out this software to our management teams, and now they don't have to sit countless hours doing paperwork with employees and going through those things. Now they have more time to actually be out there with our guests and with our employees. So we consider ourselves the enablers of resources for the company, but we have to do it in a smart way, in a way that when done correctly, we are going to alleviate all these administrative functions that managers have to do day to day. And when we take that out of them, then is when they can actually do what we do, which is to be with the guests and service our guests.
How are you both addressing the problem that not every employee and not every strata of the industry has the same access to technology? But I know we certainly are moving more and more towards the onboarding and recruiting being all online. How are you addressing that it might not everybody has a smartphone, not everybody has a desktop?
I think our pool of talents obviously have different accessibility to technology, and the responsibility of HR is actually engaging with those talents as well and making that process as easy as possible. And sometimes it does require some additional assistance. Not all of them will be coming with a smartphone and will be able to complete the onboarding task through their phone, and they might have to do it actually in a second language that someone from your department may be able to convey those messages with them as well. So it's really, again, adapting. I think that technology is providing a lot of assistance in the human resources department, but some limitation as well, in a way that it shouldn't be preventing us also of engaging with our talents and making sure that we are supporting the operation. At the end of the day, HR is really the liaison and the client. We have a portfolio of clients, which is all of our talents. And at the end of the day, what we want to do is supporting the operation by making sure that we are both speaking the same language. So it's extremely important that we use technology, but we leverage that depending to all of the talents that we work with.
David, maybe as the vendor and having the platform.
A restaurateur.
The restaurateur with the
Slash
platform
vendor.
on the side. How do you adjust for the differences in the workforce and the type of skills for people using your products?
So we see the industry broken up into segments. I would say that the interesting thing about the quick serve industry, they were a little bit more advanced on the technology front, more so at the executive level though, not necessarily on the front lines. Where restaurants were becoming more innovative, the full service were becoming more obviously tech dependent in the front of the house and not necessarily the back of the house. So right now we're seeing a shift in quick serve to where they're trying to infuse the technologies, because you're seeing a generational shift to where Gen X is going into more leadership roles. Mm-hmm. Gen Y is going into management roles. If you tell them that they're going to build a schedule off of an Excel spreadsheet or take inventory off of a clipboard, these are things that they just can't understand because they're dependent on technology. They know there's a more efficient way to do things, and that's the challenge with this generation. They're tech dependent. If you don't have the tools for them to be successful, we're in trouble. Mm-hmm. It's hard to keep them on board because they're not going to work the extra 5-6 hours a week to do all the administrivia. So we have to enable them with the right tools. So those are things we're starting to see more and more with that generational shift across segments of management today.
What about you, Eduardo? Are you seeing problems in your workforce with adapting the technology that some certainly are very adaptive and others are very resistant, certainly to bringing in the tech?
Of course,
how do you handle it?
It's a matter of going in waves. As Cynthia is saying, you have to educate your staff on what is the tools that we're providing. When we first started with paperless paychecks, and now you can see your pay stubs in your phone. Obviously, it requires for someone to go and get a login and get into the system and then download an application on their phones. And we walk them through all that. And now that they are set up, there every other week they just see their paycheck on their phone. The next step was the W-2s. Now you can see your W-2s on the phone. So you have to. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to educate your staff on how to use the tools. And once they are using those tools, then they are pretty much, we're connecting with them on their same language. And those individuals who are more far advanced, now they're like, oh my God, now we are in the 20th century. It's like there's no more paper anymore. So this is great. And then you connect even more with the generations that we cater, because we talk a lot about the millennials. And of course, the millennials are our employees. The millennials are probably most of our guests that come to our restaurants. And we need to relate to that generation in order for them to feel comfortable and satisfied.
Let me add to that. So I think, as we work as a partner vendor with many different companies, we're working with companies that have a lot of managers that have Spanish as a first language. And for this, I mean, as you think about the growth and development, the thing that always frustrates me is where I hear an executive say, well, I'm not sure my managers will get it. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're running a $2 million restaurant. How could they not get technology and efficiencies? You have to find the right partners that will really help develop your managers to leverage the technology. Because trust me, once they get a grasp of it, there's a sense of confidence built within them that they're learning and growing. So those are some of the things also, in addition, no matter which generation, we have to take into consideration. And when it comes to the technology, you have to push on your partners to help educate. If they're just dropping technology in your business and they're walking away, that's a vendor. You need to find partnerships on people that are going to help enable your managers and get them to move along, because that's what they're starving for.
So maybe if I turn it more to a micro level and look within the corporation, I've been practicing employment law and working in HR for almost 25 years, and I've seen the evolution from personnel to human resources to people development and many names in between. In the past, I think the reputation of HR, certainly not in this industry, was it's the ugly stepchild off to the side. It's not a revenue generator, which is incredibly important in this industry. I think now we're seeing that change, that certainly with the HR function, you're becoming more integrated and becoming more of a part of operations. Maybe, Cynthia, you want to comment on that and how you play well with others within the organization.
And interestingly, from my experience in HR, which is not about 25 years, but I'll get to that at some point. When I first started in this country with Chef Daniel, HR did not exist. It was just a function that was created, and it was an administrative function. And over time, the position grew, and it became very tied up to operation. And from my move now with the MENA group, kind of overseeing both the operation as well as the human resources department, is making sure that we are conveying the same message. Decisions are not being made also from the HR department. We are involving operation, because if we sign up with a new program, if we sign up with a new partnership and a new technology, if we do not have the support from the outlets, we will not be bringing any results. So it's really making sure that we are connecting together and bringing efficiency all across the board.
What about you, Eduardo? How has your company embraced the HR function, and has technology changed that? I hope for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. This industry is all about people. So the human resources aspect of our jobs is to engage with our people. And I think that we see so much. We're talking about technology here in this forum, and I just want to say that technology is not going to take over those relationships of that network. We talked about how referrals are a feeder to our company for prospective candidates, and is the number one. So once you have that connection with the people, then you can put them through technology to do the rest. What is allowing technology is to have those tasks be done by systems, so we can engage then even more with the operations. We can be on the table having conversations about what are the things that we're going to do to bring more profit, to bring more revenue, and we all together coming up with those solutions that are going to be done through the people and through the people of our companies.
What do you see as the next step, or your dream next step with technology in your HR function? I know we're constantly reading about employee performance reviews and evaluations online, and training, harassment training, safety training. What do you see as the next step or evolution for your company?
Obviously, a world without paper. HR is about a file cabinet and personal files.
We kill a lot of trees.
We want to have paperless personnel files. It's all going now into the iClouds, and we can have everything scanned. We don't need to have, we have more space now in our closets. And, but the next thing is also having that engagement with training and development. Technology is a great resource for training our employees, onboarding them, providing those tools that they need, and they can practice out there on the floor with our guests, and also development. You know, what are the opportunities out there that I do, and how do what is it that I have to do today to be there tomorrow? So having those career discussions with our employees, these are the things that you need to learn in order to go to the next step and then one day become what you want to be, and help them through the process.
Thanks. David, what about you? What do you see as a restaurateur as the next step in the evolution of tech with the HR function?
So coming from a partner vendor side, you know, for us it's the data. The data tells a lot. And there is data that you have on your team members that determines whether or not they're engaged and they're going to be a part of your business for a long time. A lot of people get promoted in this industry based on relationships and not necessarily on what they do. That needs to be transparent. You know, people need to be elevated into roles based on their performance. And if you think the data behind performance with respect to what, you know, a server or a bartender price per average checks, their tip percentages, you know, shifts that they continue to work or give up. There's a lot of rich data that allows you to determine whether or not somebody's truly engaged with their restaurant. So I think for us, really understanding that and making meaning out of it and finding ways to coach up or coach out those that aren't good for the culture are the important aspects that we need to look at, because it is a people business. What you want is an engaged workforce within your company, and you have to find ways to continue to focus on that.
I think the data, as you talked about, there's a lot of pros and cons. Certainly, as the attorney,
as an HR
as an HR attorney, the data is incredibly important. It's giving us a lot more information. The analytics you can pull up on the demographics of the workforce, the ability to have access to comp and to figure out bonus systems is incredible. There's also a big negative, because certainly for the lawyers it's there, and
Right.
sometimes you can be too data-driven. How do you see working with all of this data and making sure you're using it in a positive, progressive way?
We're not to that step yet. I would say that the first goal is definitely to go through paperless system and making sure that all of the onboarding practices that we have are reducing the number of documents that we have in our cabinets. But obviously data is supporting the action function, and it's fostering engagement and retention all across the board with our employees. So once we will be able to get to that stage and really collecting the data, supporting the assessment, supporting the review process, and promoting from within based on valid information, not necessarily referral or complexity or relationship with our management team, we will then be able to pull that data and use it accordingly.
Maybe I want to look towards the negatives a little bit.
Sure.
Technology is certainly bringing a lot of data in. It's giving us access to a lot, but it certainly affected the workplace, sometimes in a negative. You have social networking, you have Yelp, you have all sorts of platforms for not just guest complaints and comments, but also employees. How do you deal with technology now as a control mechanism to really make sure we don't have problems with employees and the information? That's got to be a big concern.
It is, and again, it has to be a balance of the two. You cannot just throw technology out there and forget about the people aspect of it. Like, for instance, performance reviews. Yes, one day we'll have a system that does it automatically, but that's not going to take the place of a manager sitting face to face with someone providing feedback. So you have to use technology to your benefit, but not just rely on it. Also, I think that technology gives you the opportunity to us in human resources to do those analytics. I do want to know why people are leaving my company. I also want to know why people like my company and they want to stay here. And that's only things that we can know through data, not through subjective measures of one person saying this or that. So it's a balance. You have to really utilize technology in those areas that you need objectivity, but you have to also be the people that we are in our restaurants.
What about you, Cynthia? How has technology maybe been more of a management problem? Has it created new concerns running the operations?
It has and it has not. On that particular level of communicating on social media and sometimes using that platform as a breathing, as welcoming the community and speaking up about their frustration, what we try to do at the MENA Group is reinforcing the idea of an open door policy. I often, when I welcome any new employees coming to the organization, tell them that they should be speaking about their experience. We feel actually very proud for them to feel as an ambassador of our culture. But it has some limitation, and obviously HR could go to a disciplinary action if anything happens on that level. But we're embracing this idea. It's a new generation. They've all grown up. We were not necessarily part of this generation, but the new one that we are dealing with, the smartphone is just an extension of their way of communicating. And we should just be cautious about this and working around that parameters.
We certainly aren't going to go into all the legal issues, but it's becoming a bigger issue with social media and constantly addressing. Now employees have an instant, immediate place to speak out, where it was a lot harder to get your disgruntled employee's message across before. So I think that's certainly a big challenge.
And that's why you have to maintain that people connection. If you know that you need to separate an employee from your company based on the fact that they violated company policies or whatever, that last meeting with that employee is crucial. You want to treat that person with respect, with dignity, explain the reasons why, we can no longer have you. This is why, because you did this or that. So that may mitigate the fact that he could go into a media platform and talk badly about the company.
Maybe, David, I want to ask you, the law is certainly changing rapidly, and we've seen New York in the last few weeks, Seattle, a lot of jurisdictions are suddenly taking the issue of scheduling very seriously. And while
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is, but it is and it isn't. While
right.
The platform is now there, and it gives a lot of ease to change it.
When I say it's a good thing, it's a good thing for us. I understand that. It's not a good thing for the group here. So,
but how are
you know that.
How is Hot
Now,
Schedules adapting?
With that, I mean, yes, it is complex, and it changes from state to state. For many of you that have restaurants in different states, and for the complexity of this right now, you can't leave it to chance by whatever systems that don't comply with the labor compliance. You have to have the systems necessary, whether that's us or something else, because your managers can easily get in trouble. They don't understand the laws, how they're evolving, so it's imperative for you to be able to communicate and educate your managers on the law. Mm-hmm. Now, we're doing lots of sessions, and it's not really just with our customers, it's anyone in the industry. We just ran through webinars on the overtime. I want to say that we had about 800 attendees on the last one. I think there was a little over 1,000, and these are just restaurateurs they just want an outlet. They want to know, they want to ask questions. So find places for them to get educated. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that you need to do now. But it's difficult. Now, we've seen this in California for really the past 7 or 8 years. It's now really starting to impact the other states. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult from an HR standpoint.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems, certainly from the legal and HR, is we now have a lot of incredible tools. Your product is one of them that will help with the overtime. It'll certainly help with the scheduling that's down the road. But I think there's also a disconnect often between the operations and either relying too much on you and, as you said, not that educational component. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Maybe, I know we have just a few more minutes left, but how are you using technology in the workplace now for training and teaching? Because things are changing rapidly.
Yeah, so e-training and continuing education is definitely a source of engagement and retention in our company. We have started with a system which is called Recipe Exchange, which has, at the beginning, had the goal of just sharing all the recipes that we have. So anyone joining our organization would be able to review those recipes, pertaining to all of the locations that we have. And from that, we started using that as an intranet. So we communicate on any level that could pertaining to the outlets, covering any labor updates, any communication regarding a new platform that we would be signing off. And again, at the end of the day, is engaging HR with your people and making sure that we communicate accordingly.
Thank you. I think we're hitting our time,
Yeah.
but do we have any time for questions? Any questions on technology?
Hi, my name is Erica Kesman, and I consult with companies on the impact of technology on relationships. So it's focused on bringing your human to work. And the studies that you may all have seen, the biggest one being the Gallup study, that when you have strong relationships and even friendships at work, it leads to higher productivity, lower attrition, which is a big issue in this business. But if you're many people in restaurants today, when they take their break, instead of back in the day, when they would connect with other, colleagues and chit chat, now oftentimes they're checking their technology. So not making a judgment on that, but it can, at the end of the day, impact the bottom line of your businesses. So my question is, from the perspective of a human resources function, what are you all doing to create opportunities to foster your relationships between and among your colleagues at work?
I would probably start. So what we try to do during those breaks is just engaging the talents all together, back of the house, front of the house, connecting before the pre-shift, and enjoying themselves on any topic that we'd like to cover. Obviously, we cannot limit them from having access to their smartphone and doing all the things that they want to do, but we are welcoming them in the same room. We are welcoming them to enjoy the food that came from the back of the house, and we try to make something fun around it. So that's probably the only way that I could think of in terms of trying to go around it.
One thing is that us as businesses, we use a lot of resources to put our name out there for our prospective guests to know who we are and they can come. And sometimes we don't use the same efforts to inform and share that information with our very own people. It's very, very sad when someone hears something about our company in the media without hearing it from us first. Sure. So we are the pioneers of making sure that there is a strong internal campaign inside our own company to make sure that everybody's informed of what we're doing, what is our purpose, where we're going, what are the opportunities that we have. At Think Food Group a year ago, we introduced what we call Think Food Channel, and that is a flat screen TV that is in every kitchen, and it is managed by the operations actually in our office, and we put information through that screen. Birthdays, we put new openings, job opportunities, whatever is going on in our company, we try to display it. And yes, it's not going to be the sole source of information because people are not going to be standing in front of a flat screen TV all day.
We hope
but
not.
At least, we hope not, right? But at least we're trying to utilize the technology through these screens, through email, through newsletters, through anything possible so people can truly be engaged with what we do in our company and they see all the opportunities that we have.
Thanks. We have time for one more question.
Hi, I'm Albert Lee from OTG. My question for the group is, to what degree can you require employees to have personal technology? We all believe that paperless is great, but where are you drawing the line? Obviously data plans cost people money. These are sometimes people that don't make a whole lot of money to begin with. Where are you drawing the line in your organization?
I can probably start with the legal side. The legal side is certainly important as far as making sure, to the extent you're requiring technology, you have to understand the rules of your jurisdiction, and you're both in different ones. New York is certainly a state that requires the employer to pay for and provide that technology. So if you require an iPhone or you require a laptop, it needs to be provided for you. And this is expensive. These are costs.
This is very expensive, and there's no requirement for our staff to actually provide that technology in order to be able to first join our company or just complete any tasks that are going to be given. prior starting with us. So there's no, we make accommodation around it. We make accommodation not only with providing the right tools for them to complete those tasks, but also providing that in their own language. We were mentioning at the very beginning that probably half of the pool of our talents actually speak a different language, so we need to make that accessible, not only on the provider that we use and the platform, but also translating the information to those employees.
Maybe, Eduardo, you can have the last word. How are you handling the expense of the technology and providing the right technology to the right employee?
Well, we want to make sure that we leverage the systems and that the technology that we're using can talk to each other, so it's flawless. And then going back to the question is that you have to make sure that you have that balance. We're saying that we're going to have this system, online system, to get a job in our company, but that doesn't mean that if someone wants to join us, they cannot complete a paper application. Like, we want to be flexible enough to make sure that we cater for everyone, and that is not solely through the technology.
I want to thank everybody today. I want to thank TechTable for having us. I think this is an incredibly exciting time and opportunity. I want to thank David, Cynthia, and Eduardo for participating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Also.